Hello again, guys. Let's start developing the application. So the first part, as you know, if you have watched the videos, my videos, is to make the folder structure. So let's make our backend. Then we can make our client folder, and then we can make our socket. First, I'm going to develop the backend. So let's start. The first part that we should do is just to remove the debug console. Okay, so the first part that we should do is cd into our backend folder. After we are in our backend folder, let's type npm init y, and we have initialized successfully our application. Then we are going to install a few dependencies, so type with me npm I bcrypt, course.env, Express.JS web token, Mongoose, and NodeMon. Those will be our dependencies for the backend server, so click enter and they will be installed in 10 or 15 seconds, something very small. Okay, while they're installing, let's make our index.js and let's start typing our code. So I'm going to make the terminal smaller here. Okay, so let's import our dependencies. So let's import Express. After Express, let's import Mongoose. After this, we are going to import course. If you probably know Express and Mongoose because they are very often met, but course, what is course? It is used when you have a backend and client server that are on different ports. Usually, it is a convention I've seen that the backend is on port 5000 and the frontend is on port 3000. So they are on different ports, and by default browsers don't allow different ports to communication, and by having course and using that middleware we can communicate between the backend and client folder. If you don't understand anything from this, don't worry, just use the course as a middleware and you should be good to go. Okay, then we import our .env. .env is used for environmental variables, and let's invoke the function config. And let's make our application. So here app, and here app.listen to port, process.env.port uppercase, and here a callback function if it's a success. So server is successfully started. Okay, let's make our .env folder because we are going to need it. So the port here is 5000. And this is how you write environmental variables. You precede them with process.env. and then the name of the variable, as you see here. Another environmental variable that we're going to have is the URL for the Mongoose. So let's go to MongoDB before doing anything else. So here, let's click on new project. I was on the front page. So you see here, I was on the front page, new project. Let's chat up Mern. Just make some name if you want, then create project. All the setup from Mongoose will take us around a minute, if not less. And here click create starting at free. Of course, we are not going to pay money. Then create cluster. And here just type the username and password you want to have for your database. So I can type something like username 123. The same will be for our password, and create user. Okay. And here the IP address. Add entry, finish and close, go to databases, and we are actually ready. We just need to click on connect your application, and here just copy this link. Copy that link and let's paste it here into the .env file. And here you see with the brackets and password, you want here to paste your password. So remove the password here text and the brackets that are on the left and right, and here type the password that you have written in the application, the MongoDB application. So this is it, and let's connect our database. So here mongoose.connect process.env.mongo ___ I'm not sure how this character is called exactly. It does not matter. And here DB is connected successfully. So let's start our server by typing npx nodemon. Nodemon is used for restarting your server just when it detects some file changes. Usually, if you don't have nodemon, you need to manually restart your server. And with nodemon, we are over this problem. So we don't need to type, we don't need to click Control C, then start again. It takes us a lot of time. It is unnecessary. So I think we are ready for now. Let's make our folder structure here. So models, controllers, and the last folder here in the backend is middleware. So I suggest that we first start with the models. So let's create our user model first. So user.js. So let's import Mongoose. So const Mongoose is equal require Mongoose. And here const user schema is equal to new Mongoose schema. This is how you declare a schema. It's like a constructor because it has the new keyword. And here you start typing the fields that you want your user schema to have. So I want it to have a username, but I want several conditions for this username. I want to be of a type of a string because we don't have username with numbers, right? Imagine username with numbers. It's kind of weird. And here required true because we want to have username, whatever happens. We cannot create a schema without username. That's what require true means. And unique true means that every single username must be different from all other usernames in the user collection. So this is for the username. After this, we have an email. The email is going to have all of the same properties. So I just copy and paste the same properties, literally the same. And the password is going to have again a type of a string and required true. This is it for the user schema. And here we can specify another object. You see here, you see before the final parentheses, the closing parentheses, I type comma, curly braces, and here timestamps this property here. This is from Mongoose by default. This tells the Mongoose that in every single document of our collection, I want to have the property created at and updated at. This means that when we create some collection from the user, I want it to have when it was created and when it was last updated. So here let's export our Mongoose schema. So here mongoose.model, and here the name of our collection will be called user, and it is going to have the structure of user schema. That's how you can read this thing. And let's make another model. So the next model that we're going to create is the conversation.js. So here again, let's import Mongoose and let's start typing our schema. So here const conversation schema. Usually, as you see here, I type conversation and after this I type schema. This is the convention. Conversation, it comes from the file name and then schema. That's how you type. Usually that's convention. It's not like a rule, but people follow this thing. Here new mongoose.schema, again parentheses, and here an object inside the curly braces, and here we have only one property, which is members, and it is a type of an array, and it is a required to true. And again here we have the timestamps, and this is for the conversation schema. It is quite short, as you see, and here we export it. So mongoose.model conversation schema. Okay, so this is for the conversation schema. The last model that we're going to have is the message. So here message.js, and here const mongoose is equal to require mongoose, again the same thing. And here let's type const message schema is equal to new mongoose.schema. And the first property is conversation ID, which will hold the ID of our conversation. As you know, guys, when you create a document, it has automatically an ID. This is from Mongoose by default. You cannot control this. Every single document have an ID. And here for the message, we're going to have this ID to know in which conversation the message belongs. Here again, type of a string and required of true. We have two more properties left. So message text, this is the text itself, so it's again a type string, and required of true. After this, come on, true. After this we have the sender ID, which is a type of a string, and required of true. And again we have a timestamp of true. And the last part, as you know, is to export it. So here mongoose.model message schema. So this is for our models. let's go into our controllers. So for the controllers, we first create the Auth Controller, this Auth Controller, if you don't know, it will host the login and register logic. So I can close these models here, and I want to keep only the user here open. So const user is equal to require in the quotes / models / user. I can even close this, I don't know why I left it open. And here I import two dependencies. The first is bcrypt, which is for hashing passwords. Usually when you create a user, or when user logs in, you want to hash his password. In register you hash his password, and in login you compare the password from the client to the password within that database. The database password is hashed, from the client it's the normal password. I'm going to show you later. So the last dependency for the Auth Controller is JWT. This is for authentication and authorization. This is basically a way of telling, okay, this user is logged in, okay, this user is admin. Authentication means login and register. Authorization means admin and someone with special properties, or he has no special properties. So Auth Controller require express.router, and here Auth Controller.post/register is an async function because we're going to interact with the database. Every single interaction with the database is by nature asynchronous, if you don't know. Here I try catch block to catch any error if we have some error. Here I just console log the error in the catch block, and here let's start typing the code. So first we check if there is already such email registered in our database. So await user.find one. This will return the first document in our collection if it returns true with the condition. So return the email that we have from the request.body.email, and if is existing, this means there is already such an email registered. So we want to throw an error. So not to throw an error, but to return right now. We don't want to continue. So return status 500 message user is already registered. It's for the is existing. Then we check if the values that we have are empty. So is request.body username. If this is empty, equal to empty, or request.body.email is equal to empty, or request.body.password is equal to empty string. And here I'm going to copy this and change only the message, and the message will be here fill all fields. And actually I can copy this if, remove it from here, and I want to paste it above this thing, because here we use already the email. I want to check before doing anything with those values, I want to check if they are empty. Okay, the next part is hashing the password. So here const hashed password is equal to bcrypt hash request.body.password, and here we provide the assault of 10. This is basically how strong we want our password to be, and usually I've seen in every single video people type 10, and I follow the conventions usually in programming. And let's create our user. So const user is equal to await user create, and here we spread the request.body. The request.body, if you don't know, those are the values that we sent. And let's reassign one of the properties. So we reassign the password property with the hash property variable that we have created above. And the next part is we want to return the user data, but even though we have hashed the password, you see here we have provided the hash password, but usually we still want to pull the password away. Even though it is hashed, it is still better to not return the password to the user. So here we destructure it. So here we take the password and also the leftovers. This is the user object but without the password, because here we extract the password, and equal to user._doc. This is basically the values that we have provided here, because if I type this thing here, there are a lot of things that are provided in Mongoose by default to the user object, and I don't want to touch them. I have not created them, I don't want to touch them, and I want to touch the values that I have provided here above in the user.create method. Okay, and the next part is actually creating the token, the JWT token. So const token is equal to create token user. This is a function that I will going to create right now. So here, create token, it takes the user and it returns, actually it creates first the payload with the ID here, user dot underscore ID to string, and here email, user email, and then we create the token. So await, so not await, but it's not asynchronous, so you can do it like this. So jwt.sign payload, the first argument, and the second argument is the JWT secret. So again, you know, secrets variables, we store them into the .env. So here JWT underscore secret, here secret 123. Of course, this is not hard to decipher. I know, I'm well aware of it. This is just for demo purposes. Usually you want it, usually if you make a real application, you want it to be a lot more complex than this string here. So let me close my .env file. And the last property, the third argument, is an object which I'm going to provide with the property expires in. And if I want to specify hours, I do it like this. So 5h, this is 5 hours, as you see here. If I wanted to specify days, I can do it like this 5d. But I'm going to put it, let's say, like 6 hours, just some value here to not worry about it expiring soon. And here, of course, the last part is returning the token itself. So here I have created the token, I have extracted the password, and the last part that we should do is returning the value. So here 201 JSON token others. So before trying the register, I want here to apply some middlewares, and those middlewares are a must. I cannot go without them. You see here, I use a lot of things from the request.body. Here, I'm just going to copy it, and you're going to see how many places I type the request.body. In order to have access to the request.body, you must specify here a middleware, app.use express.json. This is basically, if you don't specify this, request.body is undefined. And another middleware that is for the same use is express.urm encoded, and here inside the parentheses you provide curly braces with the property extended set to true. And I see that I have not used course. I am going to use them because later I could forget, and later I'm going to think about why I have an error. So those are the middlewares that I want to specify, and let's open Postman. I have already opened it here. So let's create here username, test1, this is the username, then email, test1.@gmail.com, and here the password. So the password is 123123, and here let's click send. Cannot post. I have not imported the controller. So before having access to it, we need to export it from here. So module.exports Auth Controller, and let's import it here. So app.use, the endpoint of Auth is going to be the route, and Auth Controller. So you see, if I want to register, I cannot do this only register. Here I specify that it belongs to the auth route. So here, before using the register word here, I need to type auth / and then the register. So I think it will be okay. So let's click post, let's click send, and you see here we get the JSON token, the JSON web token, and here our user data without the password, as I told you. It is the user values without the password. And you see here we have the ID that I told you, and the created and updated at, which are from the timestamp that I have written here. Those two things, created and updated at. Okay, so this is for the register. Let's go to the login. So the login, it will be quite similar, but it has some differences, of course. So here Auth Controller post, again it's a post request, but here the endpoint is instead of login, instead of register, it's login. And here again async request response arrow function try catch. Here I'm going to copy the console.error. And let's start. Here, before doing, I'm going to copy this condition. As you see here, this is basically for checking if the request.body and password and username are empty, but I'm going to log in only with the password and email. I don't need the username here because I'm going to log in again. I'm going to repeat. Login is with email and password, register is with username, email and password. So here, no username, we remove it from the condition. Okay, so here, const user is equal to await user find by ID, request body, wait, user.find1, I'm going too fast with this thing, so user.find1 email request.body.email. Then if we don't have a user, you see here we check if we have a user and we throw response 500. Here the logic is opposite. So here, if we don't have a user, we return response 500 with the message here, user has not been registered. Then after this, if we have passed this condition, that means there is such an email in our application, but we need to check the password. So here, const compare pass is equal to await bcrypt compare, and the first value that we provide here is the plain password, as you see here. So here the plain password is going to be request.body.password, and the response, not the response, what I'm talking, so request.body.password is the first value, and the second value is the user.password. The user.password is going to be the hashed password. Let's go to our database, and I want to show you how a hashed password looks like if you have not seen. So this is from 1 to 3. So this thing here, wait, I just want to comment. So here, this 1 to 3, 1 to 3. So from 1 to 3, it is this thing here. So it is literally unrecognizable. You cannot see any similarity between those things. So this is how a hashed password look like. And here, wait, why did I remove that comment? And the first value, the request.body.password, is this thing here, 1 to 3, 1 to 3 in our case. And the second value is the hashed password, and it is going to compare this with this. And I'm going to remove right now the comment. So if it returns false, this means the password is not the same. So here, let's return response status 500 JSON in an object message, user has wrong password. But usually when the email or the password is wrong, usually you want to provide a message like this. So wait, so email or password are wrong, and the same message here. Why the same message here, you may ask? Because imagine that you try some emails, you are hacker. So let's suppose that you are hacker and you try some emails and some passwords, and you see that the message is the email is right, but the password is wrong. So I mean the message is the password is wrong. So if the message's password is wrong, this means that the email is right. So you know, okay, there is such an email registered in our application. Let's try to brute force and let's hack. That's how a hacker thinks, and usually we as developers, we want to avoid this thing. So to make our application a little bit more secure, it's not like a 100% thing, but you can make it a little bit more secure. This message helps with security, so that's why the message should be the same. And after this, we are going to do the same thing. So we extract the password, here others, and here is equal to user_doc. And let's create our token. So const token, create token, here others, and let's return it. So return status 200 JSON, not JSON, yes, JSON, but not message here. We return here the same. So token and others. So let's try to login. So here I'm going to remove the username because I log in with email and password. And here let's change the endpoint from register to login. So here let's click send, and I have an error. I think return status JSON. Here I see that I have some error. So here invalid status code. Kind of interesting. Why I have this thing? Let me try to debug. So here if I write hey, so it goes to this line here, no problem. But let me see if it actually goes below here. So others and token. So let's click send. And actually I can see the user and I can see the token, but here response.status 200, why it is invalid? So our everything here works, but this thing here below does not work. Because here it must be in an object. You see guys, such stupid mistakes can make you lose your time. So here this thing must be an object. You see here I have added curly braces here. The curly braces here, add them. So right now it should work 100%, I'm sure. Click send. And here we get the token, and here we get the data in login. Let's try to log in with wrong email. Let's see. So I'm going to add some characters. So let's say I add H here. If I click send, email or password are wrong. Okay, the email is right, but let's see the password. So here I'm going to type another character, click send, and here the same message again, email or password are wrong. Kind of good, right? So this is for the Auth controller. The next is user controller. So let's go here, user controller, and let's import the user model. So here const user require models user, const user controller require express.router, and here user controller get find, and here we take the ID as a parameter, async request response. I'm going to tell you beforehand, in the user controller we are going to have only one function, and this is for getting an individual user. So don't worry, it's going to be very, very short. We have already written like half of it. So let's start. So const user is equal to await user find by ID request params.id, and here const password dot others is equal to user underscore doc, and let's return. So response status 200 JSON others. We don't want to return the password. And this is actually, and let's export it. I almost forgot here. Let's export the user controller, and here let's import it. So app.use user controller. So this for the user controller. Let's continue with the other controllers. The next controller, as I see here from my other monitor that I have, is the conversation controller. So let's go. Conversation controller, and this one is going to be a little bit more interesting. So here const conversation is equal to require dot middleware underscore, not underscore, this is slash. This character I know how it is called, this is slash. And here verify token. So here I'm going to import a middleware that I have not yet created. So let's create that middleware before continuing. I'm going to explain you why this middleware is required. So you see here, let me log in again with correct data. You see here, we get that token, and usually this token, I don't return it just like this. I have a purpose. I copy the token and here into the headers, here the key authorization, and I paste it here. You see, I have done it previously. Here I paste the token. And what we can do with this token, we can verify that the user is actually this user. So we can verify that with that token that we are the actual user, and we can do specific things with that token. So let me show you the function here. So verify token.js, and let's import the JWT. Here we only need JSON web token. The function is going to be called const verify token is equal to request response next, an arrow function, and I don't think it's an async function. Yes, it is not an async function. So to access that token, we check it like this. So request, I told you it's in the request dot headers. You see here headers dot authorization. You see here authorization. It is everything is deliberate. I don't type some gibberish thing here. If we don't have anything, if the user is not logged in, that's what this means. We return it. We don't want to continue. So return res status 403.json message and not authorized no token. Next, we check if it starts with request.headers.authorization starts with the string bearer and a space, because the token is because the request.headers.authorization is going to be like this. So I'm going to show you. So bearer, a space here, you see only one space, so bearer space, and here the token, some random string. So this is how it's going to look. So here we check if it starts with bearer and space, that means there is something. So let's continue, and here we get the token. So the token, how we can get the token? So I'm going to show you a trick. So request.headers.authorization.split, and here we split it by the space, because I told you it is bearer, and here space, and the next character is the token. So we are going to have an array with two elements, the bearer string, just the bearer, and then the token. So I want to get the second element, which is the first index, so the token. I'm going to write a comment here too. Here, get the second element, which is the token itself. So here we have the token, which is that random string of characters that you saw. Let's verify it. So JWT.verify, and here we place the token. Then we place the secret. That's how we can verify it. So the first argument is the token itself, this thing here that you see here. Then we provide the secret, which is in the .env file. You see here JWT_secret, and we get in return here as a third argument a callback function, which has two parameters, error and data. So if the token is invalid or it has been expired, we're going to have an error. So here, if error is equal to true, return response status 404 JSON message. The message is going to be wrong or expired token dot. Else, if the error is a false value, which means that we have no error, which is great if the error is a false value. Else, request.user is equal to data, which is an object with the user ID and user email as its two properties. Here I write that comment because if you're confused, they're going to help you. And you probably have wondered, what is that third parameter? So here we call next, and this third parameter, here, let me show you. Here in the user, if I type here the verify token, although I don't need it here, but let's suppose that I type it here. But before having access to it, I need to export it, obviously. Verify token. And here, verify token, and the next in this context is that function here. This is next, and we want to go to the next function. We want to call this next function only if everything here has been passed. So if we have something, if it starts with bearer, and if it's a correct token with the secret and everything, then we want to call next. And I told you again, in this context, next is the function here. It is the function after the verify token. You see, the function after verify token is this thing here. That's why it's called middleware, because it's between functions. And the next in the middleware, it has the next property, and the next is the next function. Literally, the next is the next function. I don't know, I know it sounds weird, but the next is next function. Okay, so this is for the verify token. I don't need it here in the user controller, so I'm going to remove it, but I will need it in the conversation controller. That's why I told you that we're going to create it. So let's go back to the conversation controller. I have imported it already here from previously, and let's import the conversation model. So here, conversation is equal to require quotes dot models underscore conversation slash, not underscore. I again mistake the characters. And here let's create our conversation router equal to require dot models, not models, but express dot router. So this is our router, and let's start. So I'm first going to write the comment. So here we are going to have create conversation, get user conversations with its ID, and get a single conversation. So the comments are quite self-explanatory what they are going to do. So create a conversation. So we have here conversation router dot post. It is going to be on the home route here like this. Verify token. We want to be able to create conversations only if you're logged in. And the token is basically a way of telling our server, okay, we're logged in. This is what the token means, guys. We are logged in. This is what token means. Again, I'm going to repeat. So here, try catch, here console dot error in the parentheses. In here, we get from the request.body, I'm going to take it like this. So receiver ID is equal to request.body. This code the structuring. And here our ID, so current user ID is equal to request.user.id. From where this comes, you may ask. If you don't remember, I have reassigned it here. And this data, you probably wonder, okay, this is the data, but what exactly is this data? If you don't remember, in the Auth Controller, you see here the Auth Controller, the data is this thing here, the ID and the email, the payload. The payload is data, this is the data that we get back, if everything is correct. I hope that you understand those things. It took me a while to understand those things. And here we check, is convo already created? This means if we already have a conversation with that user, because we don't want to create another conversation with the same people, right? It doesn't make sense. Imagine we have a conversations with user 1 and user 2, and the second conversation is again user 1 and user 2. It doesn't make sense. Here, await conversation, don't find one, and here members. This is how we can see. So members are again curly braces, dollar sign, O, 2 dots, and here not curly braces but square brackets, receiver ID and current user ID. So you probably wonder, if you have not seen the syntax, you probably wonder what that means. This means that this is going to get a conversation which has inside the members both of those things. And you know, a conversation consists, at least in our application, of 2 people. And if it returns a conversation that have exactly those two values, we are going to get the conversation back. And so if we have a conversation, here we're going to return response status 500.json message here. There is already such a conversation. Else, we're going to create a conversation. So here, await conversation dot create. Here, curly braces, members, and inside it, we're going to have some square brackets, current user ID, and receiver ID. And here we create the conversation like this. And the last part is returning it, of course. So response 201, which means successfully created. Message conversation is successfully created. Okay, this is for the create conversation, guys. Let's go into the next function that we're going to write. So it is going to be here a get request, and it is going to be /find/user ID. We want to get every single conversation of a specific user, and here we provide verify token because only the user can get its own conversations. I'm user 1, I cannot get every single conversation from user 2. It doesn't make sense. It is very, very bad for security. Here, async request response, and here before typing a line of code, we are going to have this condition: if request.user.id is equal to request.params.user.id, this thing here, those two must be the same name. You see here, if I code this ID, this is going to be ID, but in my case I called it user ID. Here it is again user ID. Here we're going to write our code, but else, if they are not equal, I'm going to return here response status 403 JSON message. What is the message here? You can get only your own conversations. Not. So this for the else here, and let's type here in the if block here try catch. Again, interaction with the database requires a try catch. It does not require, but it's a good practice. And here const user ID is equal to request user.id. This is our ID. So I can rename it even current user ID to be even more descriptive here. And below this, const conversations is equal to await conversation.find members, curly brackets. You see here members, 2 dots, curly brackets again, $ includes square brackets current user ID. So if you wonder what is this thing here again, this means that if it includes, so it does not require everything to be this. It requires only one thing from that array to be equal to the current user ID, because you know it is an array of 2 elements. Here into the O we want to check, we want to get the array that has both of them, but here only this thing here. So this only includes that how you can read this thing. So if it includes the current user ID, return the conversations, and here we have find, so it will return an array of every single of our conversations. So here return status 200 JSON conversations. Okay, and the last function here into the conversations controller is conversation router dot get here underscore convo ID, and here we're going to get just a single conversation, and here async request response try catch console error here const conversation is equal to await conversation find one, because we want only one, and it's going to be find by ID. It is like find one but with the ID, and here request params, and params is this thing here, so it is called convo ID, so it is convo ID short for conversation. And if conversation dot members, it's only conversation here, so here if conversation dot members dot includes request dot user dot ID, we're going to return it response status 200.json conversation, else that conversation does not include you, so here we're going to return 403 message in the square brackets, this conversation does not include you. So let me make the terminal smaller here, and here let's export the module, let's export the conversation router. So app.use conversation, the endpoint, the route, not the endpoint, and here conversation router auto imported. Okay, so let's test if it works. So here I'm going to go into my database to have access to the users that I have created. So here I have only one user. Okay, so here I'm going to register with as a second user. So test, come on, here test2, send, and here I'm going to be the test2. So here I'm going to get his token, paste it here, and I'm going to register with another user here, but I'm not going to take his token. Okay, so let's refresh here the database, and what was the endpoint here? So it was the route conversation, and the endpoint was okay, no endpoint. So if there's no endpoint, we just use the route here. So it's a post request conversation, and here we need only the receiver ID. So receiver ID, or was it receiver ID? Let me check. Yes, receiver ID. And here let's provide the user, the first user. I'm logged in right now as test user 2. This user, I'm test2, and I want to make a conversation with myself, test2 and test1, and later I'm going to make a conversation with again test2 and test3. So let's go here, receiver ID, I paste it, send, conversation is successfully created. If I try again to send, there is already such conversation. You see, everything works properly. Okay, I already have one conversation, and right now I want to make a conversation with test3. So send, conversation is successfully created. Okay, so let's click on conversations, and we have two conversations, and you should see here this ID here is the same as this. So this is test2 ID. So remember that ending, so it is 5802. Let's see if test2 have this 5802. So everything is working correctly as intended and as expected. And this is for the creating. Let's do the find with the user ID. So here, let's go into my wait, let's go into my postman, and it was find slash and here the user ID. So the user ID here is this for test2. Wait, and here let's paste it. And here I remove the conversation route, I don't know why, so it is conversation find the ID here, and the request is a get request. So let's click send, and you see here I get this back. I get an array of 2 objects which are my 2 conversations. Okay, but if I try to get the test1 with the conversations from test1, I should get an error, because right now I have the token from test2, and this is the ID of test1. This is the ID of test1. I again repeat, we should get an error if it's working correctly. So click send. You can get all your conversations, guys. I'm very fulfilled. This is working as intended without any mistakes here. Very nice. And let's try it here the last. So it was get a single conversations. Okay, let's try it. So conversation, let's get the conversation ID. Let's paste it here as a parameter like this, and let's click send. So maybe something is not working. Yes, something is not working. I don't return anything. So let's see, we have some error or something. Cannot read property of undefined reading ID. What is reading? So it is reading this thing here. Here I have not specified the verified token, that's why I get an error. So here let's copy it, paste it, and right now we should have no error and we should get the conversation back. Okay, as I told you, we get the conversation back, ID, the 2 members created and updated that, so everything is working as we have intended to work. So the last controller that we have is the message controller. So let's create a message controller.js. Let me close the terminal here, let me close here conversation and user controller, and let's start. So we import again the verify token middleware. So require /middleware, come on, middleware verify token, then message, this is our model here, so from the models message, and then we declare the message controller variable. So require express, and then we invoke the router method here. Okay, so let me check what was inside the message. We have the conversation ID, a message text, and the sender ID. So you see here, guys, just for your reminder. Okay, I'm going to leave it because I can return here if I'm not sure about something. So here I have only 2 functions. So create, send message, and here get all messages from conversation. Okay, so here I'm going to start first with the create one. So message controller dot post, here the endpoint, we have no endpoint, so it's going to be the same as the route. And here verify token, async request response. You guys know we have done this previously. The try cache block, console error, parentheses inside again the error variable. And let's start typing here. So const we get from the request.body message text and conversation ID from the request.body. And here we create the new message like this. So const new message is equal to await message.create. Here curly braces message text sender ID is request.user.id. We have here the verified token that's how we have access. And here conversation ID. This is it. This is, guys, very easy, and we return it, of course. 201.json new message. Okay, so this for the creating. Let's get all messages from conversation. So message controller dot get, here it's going to be convo ID. So you see here, get all messages from conversations. That's what we're going to do here. Again, verify token we need, async request response, and an arrow function. So here a try catch, console error, and here const messages is equal to await message find, and here let's return all messages that they have the conversation from the request.params.convo ig. So this is how we get access to specific messages in a specific conversation, and here we return them. This is it, guys. So 200.json messages, and we export to the controller here. So exports message controller. Wait, this is it. And here we import it. app.use message. Here message controller. So this for the message controller, as I told you. Let's try making some messages. So here we go to the Postman. Here it is a message route, as you see here. Message, we make a post request, and what we need here, a message text and a conversation ID. No problem. So I'm going to get this conversation ID, paste it here as the conversation ID, and here the message text, and the message text is going to be, let's say, text1, some dummy data. Here we have nothing here, so I remove this thing here, and let's send. So conversation ID, text1, sender ID, ID. Let's check into the MongoDB if everything is working and it is stored correctly. So let me see here into the messages. Okay, so we have conversation ID 5808. Let me see which is exactly 5808. Okay, and it has the text and the sender ID. Let me see which is the sender ID. I know who is, but I want to show you. So 5802. 5802. Let's see. 5802. The sender is us. As I told you, everything is working. So guys, if you like this video, please subscribe, and this is it for that video. So see you next time.